Hello, welcome to another episode of The Beginning. Today we have our dear friend Don Smith. He's a long-time missionary in Japan, and he's been retired for the last few years. And his wife Mary and him went with his children to Japan back in the 19 what?
69
69. And where did you arrive in Japan?
in January of 69,
Wow. Do you remember where you landed?
Yokohama.
In Yokohama port.
Hmm.
And at the time, you only had three children, did you?
That's right.
Yeah.
Just three children.
Do you remember the names of them?
Yeah, Chuck and Melody and Colette.
All right. And so, can you give us a little bit of a back at the journey, kind of a spot, and tell us how was Japan when you first arrived?
Well, first I should say that the children were second grade and first grade, and Colette was 3.5.
Just turned three. Just turned three. Yeah. I turned three on the boat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot because it was December when we left.
Oh, wow.
And we came by ship. They had airplanes in those days, but we chose to come by ship. And that's my funniest story. So,
Well, we want to hear this story a little bit at least.
well, the first impression that we had when we landed in Yokohama was, two things. One is so many people here have TV because they're all wearing masks.
Even back there, they were wearing
They
masks.
were wearing this.
Yes, because it was winter time. And of course, Japanese often wore masks either to prevent getting colds from somebody else or to prevent spreading a cold that they might have themselves. And then the other thing that we noticed was that all of the buildings, the landscape, everything, because of course it was winter, so there were no beautiful flowers or trees blossoming or anything. Everything was gray.
Cold.
Yeah, cold, gray Yokohama.
Wow. Now, we were in Yokohama, some May of last year.
2023.
Okay, so we were there.
2024, sorry.
Yeah, and recently this year we were there too, just visiting, and we noticed how beautiful the landscape was. Maybe some of that has been built in the last few years, but what was it like back then in the time that you arrived?
What was what like?
What was the landscape, Japan as a whole?
Well, it was wintertime, so uh, a lot of it had snow, but there was no snow when we landed in Yokohama, and the area was Southport, or not Southport, South Pier, and South Pier is in the industrial area. So of course they don't paint industrial buildings, and so that's part of why it looked gray as well. And
Wow.
people were moving around, and the port was very busy.
Yeah,
It's a busy harbor.
certainly was, and certainly it is still. So from there, where did you go? Did you go down to Tokyo, or did you go to a different place? Did you go to language school?
Well, the missionaries met us there, and so we got off the ship, and and they met us, and we all prayed together and fellowship for a few minutes, and then we loaded up on a bus and went to Tokyo to the missionary chairman's house, which was at Komagome, the headquarters.
Wow, that
And it was very informative to ride along in a bus and see things left and right, and all the Japanese writing. At that time, there was very little written in Romaji or English or anything. Almost everything was in Japanese.
so you would have to break your brain trying to figure out what the signs were all about, and that was
Right.
probably very intimidating. But hey, When we think about that, how long were you in Japan as a whole?
40 years.
40 years.
Yes.
And think about the fact that you had to go and find your way around with maps, probably small maps, maybe books,
Yeah.
and try to match the kanji so that you can go from place to place.
Yes. And most of the street signs were not in English either, or Romaji, or they're just written in Japanese.
And there are no street names.
That's right.
Wow.
And even after we were there for a while, we were going down to Yokohama from Tokyo,
Right.
driving a car.
Right.
And I stopped in a filling station because I was looking for a particular road to take
Right.
off of the main road.
Amazing.
And so I opened up a map and I showed it to the man in the filling station. And his expression was, "Look at that. All of the roads are here on this map."
I'm shaking the camera because I'm laughing because I have experiences of that too. When we were looking for places in Kyushu,
He'd
stop
never
at a
seen
gas
a map
station.
before, evidently, at a filling station.
Oh, and you just wanted a quick direction.
Yes,
Maybe he wanted to have a long conversation.
So I knew that he didn't know any more than anybody else did.
So then that was your cue to say, I gotta get going somewhere else and find someone else. Hey, can you tell us, the places that you lived in Japan? For example, I know that you were in Tokyo and you were in Kyushu, but tell us a little bit about the churches that you worked with, because
Well, where we lived, first of all, is when we first arrived, we went to, and we stayed for a couple of weeks with the missionary leader, the chairman of the field fellowship at Komagome, which is downtown Tokyo. And then we rented a house in near Tokorozawa, and that was on I guess you'd say a bus road.
right,
And so it seemed like a good place to be, and it was a duplex apartment.
right.
And so we lived there for some months, and we have some interesting stories from that time.
Oh yeah,
I don't remember that place at all.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Hoya, which was probably next.
Yeah, after we lived there for a year at Tokorozawa, then we went to Hoya because there was a mission house available.
I see.
And it was larger and better situated.
Recently, CAJ celebrated
75 years.
75 years, and we were there, and we went by Hoya, which was interesting, and we were wondering whatever happened to the missions houses that were there. Who knows? But anyways, we know where that area is.
Well, that property actually belonged to the Japan Assemblies of God, and particularly it was the church property where the Hoya Church was located, and so it
the
was such a
preschool.
yes, and it was such a large piece of property that the early missionaries built 2 houses and a garage apartment there. So that meant that 3 missionary units could live there on that property. But it actually belonged to the Japan Assemblies of God for church planting.
Fantastic. So the majority, or maybe all of your ministry, was about church planting, right?
Yes, yes.
So
So from there, we actually didn't go to Kyushu from there.
right,
We moved out to, what was the name of it? There was an Air Force Inn.
Yokota?
No, there was a,
Because I know you pastored that church for a little bit.
well, yes, that was later though. And there was an Air Force base near there, and we rented a house there for the last year of our language school.
wow.
And
And how long were you in language school?
2 years.
2 years, right? That was the average for most missionaries at the time.
Yes, and then we went to Kyushu.
From there,
From there, yes.
But when we were there, that's when Mom was pregnant with Daryl.
Yes.
so then the fourth one came.
When we were in the Hoya house, she gave birth to Daryl at the seventh day
Adventist
hospital,
Oh, okay.
and
On a Saturday. I am just kidding.
I don't know.
I'm sure it was.
Every day is Saturday
If you
there.
can remember that.
No, you're
Okay.
right. You're doing pretty good if you can remember that, right? Hey, so then from there you went to Kyushu. You said I didn't know that.
Well, the last year that we were there, we were in the Hoya house, I think, and that's when we also took care of the Yokota church.
Wow. So you took care of the Yokota church and lived in Komagome. So then you went to Kyushu. Can you tell us a little bit about your time in Kyushu now?
Well, we had 2 years left on our first term, so we moved to Kyushu to Kasuga,
Oh wow,
and
It's
as
Sasebo, right?
I'm sorry, yes,
Sasebo.
Sasebo.
Yeah,
That's what I said.
Thank you for helping us, Colette. Yes.
It's a Sasebo, and later, when maybe a year later, when I was up in the Tokyo area, I visited Yumiyama Sensei, who was the original superintendent
Right.
of the Japan Assemblies of God, and he wasn't happy that I went to Sasebo.
Oh, why was that?
He wanted me to go to Kitakyushu.
Oh,
No, he wanted me to go to uh, northern Honshu,
okay.
northeastern Honshu,
Okay.
and do pioneer church planting there.
Oh,
You went to
okay.
Akita or
That-
Aomori or someplace up there?
Yeah, past Sendai,
Oh,
because
I'm so glad you didn't.
that was his home area.
That's the cold part of town too.
Yes,
So
but I wasn't told that till we'd already begun a church down
oh, okay.
in Sasebo.
Look at that. So you started in Sasebo, right?
Yes, and we started in our home, and we rented a house. The lady was very happy to rent us a house because she thought because we were foreigners that we would be able to buy whatever she wanted at the military commissary,
Oh, okay. So there was
which we couldn't.
right. Yeah. It's a
And
little bit
especially
of
she wanted us to buy their liquor for her.
oh,
And we wouldn't have done that anyway,
Right.
but we had no such base privilege as that,
right,
even
right,
though there was a large naval base
right.
there.
And at the time, obviously, because there were a large naval base, you had a lot of the probably servicemen around you. If
Some, not very many. Maybe one or two a week would come by, and
right,
they would drop by. We saw more Mormons than we did sailors.
so there in Sasebo, how long were you there approximately?
Well, after those 2 years,
Yeah.
and we stayed just a little bit longer, and then we went back to the United States for a year, and then when we came back, then we stayed there 4 years, and then we stayed another 4 years. But there was some interruption there because we became the leader of the field fellowship and moved to Tokyo
Right,
after the church had a Japanese pastor.
right. Wow.
And
So then you found yourself back in Tokyo for maybe a year or so,
Just 1 year.
yeah, it was a year.
Yeah, just
and
1 year.
then you returned for.
I don't remember that, but
Yeah.
Colette has told me this story, and a little bit. Then you went back to the U.S. after that, and then
yes.
Because
Then
we were
you-
supposed to stay in Tokyo for 2 years, but instead we came to California for 2 years.
there you go. And then from there, then you went back to Kasuga, right?
Went to Fukuoka, Kasuga.
Yeah, we had already been in Japan more than 4 years
There you go.
when we went home,
Right. Obviously.
and so we had extended just long enough to take care of the field business. And
There you go.
so then we went back to the United States, and after a year we came back, and so we went to Fukuoka area, Kasuga City, and rented a house.
I remember that house.
Mm.
You turn the lights on and the cockroaches go scurrying away. When we first moved there, it
Wow.
was. It was
And some of the floors were tatami, and the stringers on them weren't too strong, and one of our dish cabinets would move when you walked past it, like it wanted to follow you or something.
Yeah, interesting.
And so I said to one of our Japanese friends, how can I stop that from, I'm thinking, how can I reinforce the floor? No, that's not a Japanese solution. The Japanese solution is walk quietly past there.
There you go. Or move your china cabinet somewhere else or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But we
Wow.
only lived in that house for a year.
Yes, and then the mission bought the house in Momijigaoka.
So then from there, Kasuga Christian Center started, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we started in our home, and we operated in our home for the rest of that term, and then we were able to buy a piece of property after that, and uh, and we had a Bible school worker helping us,
Wow.
and so the Bible school worker lived in the building, and so when our 4 years was expired, then we were able to go back to the States for a year.
Right.
That's
And
when
then-
we came
Mm-hmm.
and filled in for you for that 1 year.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was
so
back
good.
in 1989, so we're
89,
talking
90.
about
Yeah.
a few years back now.
Yeah, you're not newbies.
So, we understand that there were other churches besides Kasuga Christian Center, Sasebo. Where other churches were you instrumental in planting?
Nishi Fukuoka,
Okay.
we started a church there, but it didn't continue because it was one of those ideas where it's a good place to start, it's a good idea, but the Lord did not direct us to do it. We just thought, oh, we have the resources for it, we have everything ought to be well,
Right.
but that's not how you plant a church.
Okay. So that was an effort, but what other churches were you involved in? I can help you, but
Yeah,
I'm triggering your.
There's wherever,
Nogata.
Nogata, and we helped a lot of churches that were struggling
Right.
as well.
And Hakata New Life. Hakata New Life.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Hakata New Life. Yeah, right in Fukuoka, downtown near the train station. Yeah, so and we also the Sasebo Church. We bought some property there and renovated an old bank building, savings and loan building, and
painted it gray.
yeah, well, that was the free paint.
That was the free paint
From the base.
From the base.
That's what they painted
We
ships with.
painted
So I couldn't.
everything gray in that church.
Yeah.
So I remember you had some efforts also in Saga somewhere.
Yes, we did plant a church in Saga, and we went over there once a week and helped them. I don't think that it continued as an Assemblies of God church,
No, it didn't.
but the workers were still working with the church and everything there.
Right.
So, and there's some Japanese history in there too. But Saga was a good place to have the church.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have a little problem with workers or something goes on there.
Yeah, that's all part of the history right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to find volunteers to come alongside or even pastors to come alongside, right?
Right.
So
And it's hard when a church doesn't continue, because sometimes we feel like, okay, well, we failed, but actually our job is not about a building or a location, it's about the people.
Yes.
And we have to continually remind ourselves about that.
And even in Sasebo, even though we bought the property that is our supporting church has helped us, and we bought the property there, but it was our Japanese workers that let it fail, and eventually they sold the property and bought another piece of property out of town a ways, and we don't have any connection with it after that.
I see.
So you started another church in Sasebo.
Yes, we did, called the International Christian Assembly.
Wow.
And to that, military people could feel welcome, and also Japanese people would be drawn to it as well.
Right.
That one is continuing even to this day.
Can you recall some of the pastors that went there to Sasebo ICA?
The people who helped.
Yeah,
I would say Brother Schaffler would be one of them.
he was our first, and then Bill and Iva Gefford.
Bill and Iva Gifford.
Yes, and Paul Williams, Paul and Julie Williams.
Yeah.
After that, what was his name?
Baker.
No, I didn't know. I don't
You
know
didn't,
Baker,
didn't know the
but-
Baker.
But there was someone. Someone was an MK.
Right.
His parents had
We
been.
were talking about
Williams, I think.
No,
last
not
name?
Williams.
No.
No.
Well, it'll come back
Maybe
to us.
Maybe
And,
it'll come to us later.
And the Orchells were there, and the Bakers.
and
were
the
Bakers
Baker, yeah,
there?
Nita Baker and
And-
Paul.
Yeah. And also the Snyders filled in there for a few months,
Yeah.
and Brenda Dickey filled in there recently for a few months,
Yeah, I heard that.
and then most recently, Reisner.
Oh yes, yes.
Reisners were there. I think they've left by now,
Yeah.
but
Right.
yeah,
Were they not there long?
they were only there 3 months.
Oh, I see.
I see. Well, that doesn't give probably we're talking too fast for the timeline. It's just amazing to hear all the things that you've done. That's almost 40 years, right, in Japan?
Well, yes, but our main things were church planting
Right.
and to go to an area that had no gospel preaching church, and to establish that, meaning not necessarily a building, but a congregation.
Right.
Build a congregation that could support a pastor.
Right.
That's the important thing. And then to second part of our ministry was to take a person right out of Bible school. They have good theological training, but they don't know how to be pastors. And so we spend 1 to 2 years teaching them how to be good pastors, how to follow up, how to sometimes we have to teach them how to preach and how to teach the Word of God. So they have real good foundation, but they need the training. One of our workers asked me one time, Sensei, where do you get your sermons? And she imagined that I had a book of sermons,
Sure.
which I did not, only the Bible.
Right.
And so I said, oh, it's just from the Bible and whatever God speaks to me. And but the whole story was more than that. But that gave her the idea that said, so you can preach on themes. And for example, during Passover, it's natural to preach on Passover. And during Christmas time, you preach on the coming of Christ and
Right.
that sort of thing. So we taught several of the pastors who are still good
Pastoring.
ministers of the Word
Yeah.
today. And so those were the two main things. And then the sideline, you might say, is helping churches that in our district that were struggling, or maybe they needed an evangelistic boost. So we would go and show a film and sing some songs and spend time talking to people and so
Just the fact that we had white faces
Yes.
is what got people to come.
Oh,
to show
that
up.
reminds you of the story in Kamai, right? The
Right,
story
exactly,
in Kamai,
in Kamai.
where you would go and people would follow you.
Yeah, so I might as well tell this story if we
Okay.
have time. Do we
Yeah,
have time?
we do have
Okay.
a few minutes.
So, Mom and Dad dropped off me and Melody and Chuck at the end of the city, at the town, not even a town, a village, a fishing village at one end, and we were supposed to walk to the church from there,
Yeah,
which
you
was
were
on
all
the
the way
other
down to the pier.
right at the
the
other
fishing
end.
pier.
And by the time we walked to the church, we had a whole group of people who were following us to the church.
Amazing. Amazing.
And they all said, or many of them said, oh, they're going to come tonight
Right.
to the meeting.
Right.
And when the meeting started, they didn't show.
Because
So
we were the first time they'd ever seen any foreigners in person.
imagine that.
But
So
they couldn't come unless their parents allowed them
Right.
anyway. But
yeah,
it was heartbreaking to Melody and Colette and Chuck.
I've been to Kamai, and Kamai is way out there, secluded on the other side of Oita in that area. So
Yeah.
that story comes alive. But you also helped with the Fire Bible in the last few years of your ministry there.
Yeah, that was about the last 10 years. We were working on the translation of the Fire Bible. We had a good translation in Japanese already for the text, but we needed to translate all of the notes and all of the special sections that are in the Fire Bible that teach on certain topics. For example, what is wine in the Bible? And so we had to have good translators, and we needed Ito Sensei, who is very bilingual and very biblically educated. He's a theologian. And Kitano Sensei helped us. And so the three of us allowed ourselves, and then Shelley Carl came alongside and helped us some too, so that we were able to produce this and get the translations up and running. And finally everything came into print, and we had a big dedication day. So we have that in Japanese now.
Great. Well, we've been talking with Don Smith, who is my father-in-law too, Colette's dad, and we are here because we're lifting up Pastor Mary as she is battling cancer. And so we ask you to pray for her. We ask you to lift her up in prayer. And what an opportunity we've had, hi, Colette,
Absolutely.
to be able to go down memory lane and
We
talk
appreciate
about
you taking this time and for being able to remember things and express yourself well.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, when Mom sees this, she will say, "Oh, you got the dates all wrong."
So, if you could say one thing to the young missionaries, what would you say?
Seek the face of God and be bold and brave, willing to follow what God has put in your heart, regardless of the cost or what other people say.
Good word.
Fantastic. With that, can we say goodbye?
Yes. Thank you for joining us for the beginning, episode 2, with Donald Smith, retired missionary to Japan. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Johnny.
God bless you.
Sayonara.
Matane.